Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Golden Week officially starts tomorrow with SSBK and Hit dropping. And I'm going to go through in today's video who I think is most likely to EZA during this year's Golden Week celebration. I have 3 EZA contenders who I believe are most likely. And we're starting with Tech and Caulifla, who do fuse into Super Saiyan 2 Kefla. Already we're starting off with a good basis of the fact they do stack. Very much suited for the meta right now we're currently in, with Jiren having about 5 phases, Festival of Battles existing, so that is already a good start. They are starting with 20% attack and defense. Easy thing that we're going to do, just as Matthew McConaughey says in The Wolf of Wall Street, those are rookie numbers. We're going to have to bump those up, alright? I was terrible, but you know exactly the point I'm trying to make. Instead of 20, at least 30, but let's just go balls to the wall, let's say 50. So between 30 and 50% attack and defense, all good. That should be good stuff for them. They are starting with 160 attack and defense. I do think this unit does kind of lean into the whole Universe 6. Let's have loads of 6 numbers in there. So I'm going to do the same. So they do start with 160 attack and defense. That can stay the same. We're going to give them a key +2 or key +3 at the start of turn. They do also launch an additional attack. There's a 30% chance of becoming a super attack. Because they are a stacking unit and Dokkan loves to hand out 70%. We're going to bump that up to 70%. And then because they are a stacker, we want them to stack up as much as possible, especially if they do give them 30% attack and defense instead of 50. And I mean, even if they do give them 50, do this anyway. Lean in to the whole dependent on who's attacking in the same turn. So we could do this in a few ways. We could do this with Universe 6 category unit, especially because they are a Universe 6 category unit in general that will help out Hit's 220 lead. Because Universe 6 is looking very, very barren right now and really needs the help. So this would be a great shout. So maybe do it with 1 ally attacking in the same turn. Maybe do it with a certain amount of Universe 6 category allies on the team. A full Universe 6 attacking rotation. Or to make it a little bit easier, because again, Universe 6 is looking quite barren right now, we could do a full rotation of Universe 6 units or tournament participant units. That way you can get some use out of these two on other categories without heavily going for Universe 6 units on your team. So I think that either or condition is the best way to do it, and that can give them a guaranteed additional. That way they're super attacking potentially 3 times in 1 turn. It's not strenuous to get off that guaranteed additional, and it helps them a bunch because they are a stacking unit. Then for every attack performed, they are getting 6% attack and defense up to 60%. That's fine. I think with all the extra additionals though, or the extra guaranteed one, we could bump this up, keep it at 60%, but then maybe bump that up to 120, 160. You know, especially because you can potentially super attack 3 times in 1 turn. That could be done even quicker. So bump the total amount of number that you can get up to say 160 and keep it at 6% each time. Because you could still get that fully finished very quickly. Then, when there is a Universe 6 category enemy, they do get 60% when attacking. Again, we could leave that the same and flesh out their attack and defense a bit more through other means, or you can bump those numbers up. Again, 160. Especially considering how specific this is, because you need to be facing Universe Survival Saga category enemy. So I'm going to make this probably stay the same. Otherwise, it's kind of needed, and I don't like Dokkan locking units out of stuff that really helps units. So I'm going to leave that the same. And then a trend that Dokkan's been doing a lot recently. When attacking with 12 key, which is basically on super attack, we could then give Kale and Caulifla like an extra 60% attack and defense, maybe an extra 100, 160, something like that to follow the Universe 6 trend with the 6 numbers. And then because Kale and Caulifla units love to do this, including Kefla units, which this unit also does, I'm going to give them just 50% chance to dodge. Just 50% chance to dodge. I know we're in a dodge or die meta, but either way, with Goku starting early on and having no build up in red zone and them stacking and them not dodging, as long as you keep them safe, they should be good, especially with how quick they could possibly stack. And then against Jiren, you have the entire fight until the final phase when dodge cancellation kicks in, and then by that point they'd be fused, they'd be stacked, they'd be fine, and also they have type advantage. And I think that makes a pretty good base. And then they do fuse on turn 6 straight into Super Saiyan 2 Kefla, no messing about. And she does continue to stack. So, I think base is going to be more so buffing them out, giving them defense. So I'm going to keep this on just stacking attack. Now, Dokkan could do this one or two ways. You buff that up to at least 50%. I would say go balls to the wall and do 100, but I don't think they'll do that. But quite similarly to the strength Kefla, we're going to have this Kefla stack attack by 50% and then raise her defense by either 30 or 50% for one turn. I think that is a good shout. She does recover 60% HP when they fuse, which that can stay the exact same. We're following that Universe 6 trend with having numbers starting with 6 or 6 in there. Just the HP recovery is just very nice to have. Now that needs to change. Kaelin Caulifla start with 160, so this needs to be at least 200%. Maybe we could even go kind of crazy and go 300%. Either or. Again, some key at the start of turn. Maybe this time, because they have fused, we're looking at like key +4. She does have a built-in additional, which has a 30% chance of becoming a super attack. I'm going to scrap that and we're going to go over 50 or 70 because I'm going to give more conditions added to the fact we've just fused. So, 4. Maybe at least 3 turns, up to 6 turns. Again, playing into that whole Universe 6 with the number 6. Anywhere from 3 to 6 turns. Maybe give Kefla an extra 160 attack and defense. Beef her out. Maybe give her an additional super. Because again, focus on stacking. And then maybe give her guard 60% damage reduction. Or maybe some extra dodge chance. Or maybe guaranteed dodge on her first appearance. On her first attacking turn. Something like that. Something to beef her out for a little bit as soon as you fuse. She then also has a base 50% chance to dodge, which I'm going to bump that up to 70. So more than likely for those turn conditions between 3 and 6 when you first initially fuse her, probably going to give her guard or 60% damage reduction. Really make her versatile, really juice her up for a few turns when you fuse her. That's kind of what Dokkan likes to do with fusing units. They like to beef them up for a little bit. Then when attacking, we're going to bump this up to 160. Then with 6 or more keys obtained, she's getting 60% attack when attacking, which that's fine. Or we could lean into that. We can make her own tech orb changer. With 3 or more orbs, she gets 60% attack. With 6 or more orbs, she gets 60% attack and defense extra. And then maybe with 9 orbs, she gets, I don't know, 160 extra attack. Something like that. I think that would work out pretty well. And then maybe we could also keep the whole conditional, guaranteed additional, as long as there is a Universe 6 or tournament participants category ally or full rotation attacking in the same turn. She has a guaranteed additional. I really want to go balls to the wall and juice up Kefla to really beef up Universe 6 as a category. So our first EZA buffed hits 220 lead. Now we have a unit that buffs SSBK's 220 lead, and that is the Fizz Frieza, the transforming golden Frieza unit. Another unit that is long overdue in EZA 2021, so we're looking at 4 years. And has a quite bare bones passive, but another stacker which is great for this current meta. So again, Dokkan could go a few ways about this. Frieza could either just purely stack defense, and we can either stay at 30% or go up to 50. Or we could stack both attack and defense, sitting at 30 or 50. Or we could do defense at either the 30 or 50 amount, and then he raises attack by a certain amount, 30, 50, for just the one turn. Either or, stacking defense is very important. I'd prefer to see him stack both. Let's beef out the attack as well. But I don't mind which way they do it. So, because this is a Frieza unit and links aren't the best, I mean, he would work really well not on Goku's lead, but then also with Go Frieza from the 10th anniversary. We're going to bump this up and we're going to lean into the Reps Universe 7 number thing as well. This is going to be attack and defense of 170. It's going to start the turn with key +2, key +3. We can keep this the exact same as well. 30% attack and defense minus for 2 turns on all enemies. After receiving an attack, Frieza does get a 30% chance to dodge within the turn and 50% attack and defense for 5 turns. We're going to bump this up to 70% attack and defense, which can either stay for 5 turns or we can do 70 for 7 turns. Again, really lean into the whole Universe 7, Reps Universe 7, number 7 kind of thing. And then we're also going to give Frieza a flat out either 30% or 50% chance to dodge. And then after receiving an attack, Frieza is then going to get an extra 30% on top of that. So once he super attacks, once he gives himself some extra defense for the turn, some extra stats, because we can also again follow the similar trend that Dokkan has, which is when attacking with 12 key, Frieza then can gain an extra 70% attack and defense for the turn, maybe more if they want to give him more, by all means. And then after that, not only has he buffed himself out with some defensive stacks, but then also he'll give some extra dodge chance as well after receiving that first initial attack, and then he'll have a ton of dodge chance to essentially keep him safe before you transform him. Especially for the fact his active skill is probably one of the best in the game, and you can literally use it as soon as you start. So it's already ready in the back pocket for whenever you need it. When you feel like transforming after stacking, if things get a bit techy and you need to, it's ready and waiting. But then because Frieza is a stacker, we're going to need some additionals. So we're going to give him just a flat out additional attack. There's a 50 or 70% chance to super attack, because stackers need the super, obviously. And then again, we're going to give him a conditional one. So just like Kale and Caulifla, if you're attacking in the same turn as a Rep to Universe 7 or Tournament Participants category unit, you have a guaranteed additional, or a full rotation of Reps Universe 7 or Tournament Participant units. Frieza will have a guaranteed additional to help with his stacking. Then moving on into Golden Frieza when we transform, which again we have ready at any given moment. Already his SA effect is amazing. Massive raise attack by 100% for one turn. We're just going to give him some defense. So you can do 100% for one turn, and then maybe 30 or 50% defense for one turn as well. So since we bumped his attack and defense up in base, that needs to go up. That can be at least 200%. I would say with the way Golden Frieza functions in the anime, and then we kind of, sometimes Dokkan likes to lean into, you know, following patterns of how forms, etc. work, you can then beef that up to 300%. But I'm going to go for a more tamed 200% or just over 200% again. Because he is a Frieza unit, we're going to start with Ki +2, Ki +3 at the start of turn. Maybe up it to Ki +4. And then, for, just like Kefla, between 3 and 7 turns, again, following that trend of the number 7, Frieza that can then come in with an extra 170 attack and defense. He can then come in with guard, or extra dodge chance, or damage reduction. Either or, but I'm going to go with guard for 7 turns. Because it can suit short content and long content the way I'm going to do this. And also the fact that we're currently sitting in a dodge cancelling meta. So he has guard for 7 turns, 170 attack and defense. You could potentially give him a built-in additional there. You could potentially give him some crit chance from that, either or just leave it at guard and the 170 attack and defense. Then attacking with 12 or more ki. We could up this a little bit. This doesn't have to be 170. It could be like 100, 120. Or we could just go 170 again. Just follow the Universe 7 trend. This can stay there. You know, wherever you can utilize it, by all means. Then when HP is 49% or less, he gets 50% damage reduction. That's fine. Because don't forget, between 3 and 7 turns, he's going to have guard. And we're also going to have a base damage reduction as well. We're not going to give him a lot. We're going to give him a little bit. We're going to give him 20 or 30%. Because that way the total number could be 70. Or we could just make him a bit more juiced up and give him 30. And he can have 80% damage reduction in total when your HP is 49% or less. That way, Frieza has some defensive coverage before you drop down to 49% HP or less. That way he is still defensively solid before you drop down to that HP threshold. And then when you do hit that HP threshold, because it is such a techie spot to be in, because you're at such low health, especially all the while SSBK is damaging you so much every time he super attacks, constantly, especially if you're running 2 of them. That way you can protect yourself a bit more. Frieza can be extra juiced up to be that slot 1 unit that we don't really have too many of in the game right now because we so desperately need one, while keeping the rest of your team safe to soak up all that damage and make him an absolute slot 1 god when you are sitting at that HP threshold. I think that works really well and kind of almost acts to a counter or a balance to SSBK constantly damaging your health every time he super attacks, especially if you're running 2 of them. And just to help Golden Frieza out a bit more before you do get to that 49% HP threshold, because you'll only be running around with between 3 and 7 turn conditional guard, but then also only 30% damage reduction, we can then also carry that dodge chance over as well and then give him just 50% chance to dodge. That way it's also usable and he has good defensive versatility before you drop down to 49% HP or less. And then also very usable in dodge cancelling meta, or a dodge cancelling phase, and also even better when that isn't a thing. And I really, as I said, wanted to lean in to that slot 1 unit that the team really needs, but in general, a lot of categories need right now because we so desperately need a slot 1 unit. So that is why I've beefed them up and juiced them up so much, because we really do need a slot 1 unit, especially with enemies hitting between 4 and 6 mil. We need some units to be able to soak all that damage up in slot 1. Then the final unit that I know a lot of you want to see EZA'd, and so do I, is LR Hitku. Now, as I said, I don't see Dokkan typically EZAing LRs during Golden Week. You know, they only done it last year as kind of an anomaly for the Global and JP sync to have Global catch up in some ways for content by doing Strength Vegito and Buhan earlier than what was probably initially scheduled. But if they are going to do it this year, by all means go for it. I think this is a great unit to EZA. Another unit that is long overdue. 2021. We're looking at almost 4 years. So definitely on the cards to EZA. But if they do EZA these guys, I do want them to EZA Tekken and Caulifla as well. So we also have a unit that does flesh out Universe 6 and help out hits category quite a bit. Don't know if they'll do that, but I'd prefer them to do it that way. But already, they have some very good SA effects. You know, 30% attack and defense on 12 key, 50% on 18 key. If you want to update these and buff these, by all means, do 50% on both, or 100% attack and defense on 18, 50 on 12. Really, really flesh out their attack and defense on Super. Now, another unit that does actually kind of play into the whole Universe 6, Universe 7 numbers kind of thing and switch between the two. So again, I'm going to do the same. And we're going to lean into this. Depending on where they sit, depends on what buffs you get. So, they do start with just 170 attack and defense. I'm going to round that up to a 200%. Just so it's fair. Round that up to a 200%. They don't need no starter turn key because they get a ton of key depending on where you put them. So they have key plus 6 and attack and defense of 60% as long as they're in slot 1 or slot 2. And for being in slot 1 or slot 2, attacks are guaranteed to hit. They disable enemy's guard and they have a 50% chance to dodge. Now, I'm going to move this. Again, we're going to lean in to having them be an out-and-out slot 1 unit, but also having that versatility for being in slot 3. So slot 1 is going to be more defensive. Slot 3 is going to be more offensive. So that 50% chance to dodge is going to come out of that, and they're just going to have that as a flat base. They can just have a 50% chance to dodge. So this could stay the same. And then for being in slot 1, we're going to give them an extra defense of like 160, 170. We're going to keep this. And then for being in slot 1, they're also going to have guaranteed guard. And then I'm also going to give them like 30% damage reduction. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to go balls to the wall. The realistic option is 30% damage reduction. I'm going to go 60% damage reduction because they're sitting in slot 1. Again, I want them to be a slot 1 unit if you have them in slot 1 or slot 2. In fact, actually just remove this. Just have them as slot 1 and then slot 3, but by all means you can keep that. But I'm going to go 60% damage reduction, but 30% is a lot more believable and a lot more realistic. And as I said, remove this and just have this as just a base 50% chance to dodge. Then I'm going to have them give key plus 1 attack and defense of 20 or 30% to all allies, no matter what slot they're in. Then as the third attacker in a turn, we're going to keep this the same, or you can juice this up to attack by 170. We're going to have the additional, and we're going to bump that up to either a 50, but more than likely a 70% chance of an additional super. And then for being in slot 3, I'm going to give Hitku an extra 30% chance to dodge. Actually, no, I'm going to give them an extra 20% chance to dodge because we're going to lean into the whole Universe 6, Universe 7 numbers. So they have a flat 50% chance to dodge in general. And then if they're in slot 3, they get an extra 20% chance to dodge, which takes their dodge chance up in slot 3 up to 70% chance to dodge, resembling that Reps Universe 7 side of things. And then I'm going to give them an extra key plus 1 or key plus 2, an attack and defense of, depending on what we give them in just as a basic support. So if we do 20, then we're going to give them 50%. If we do 30, we're going to give them 40%. as long as they're in slot 3, to category units who belong to Universe Survival Saga or tournament participants, or accelerated battle. As long as one of them is Universe Survival Saga and the second one could be tournament participants or accelerated battle, they will get the extra key +1 or key +2 and attack and defense of 30 and 40%. That way category units who belong to those categories will get a grand total of key +3, attack and defense of 70%. And then if you want to go a step further with the support, we could maybe add on some SA effect support just on 18 key, so it's not too broken, of like 20-30%, or maybe crit chance or dodge chance or damage reduction for say a turn or 2 turns. Actually, because they'll be in slot 3, probably better to do 2 turns, but like 20-30% attack and defense and crit chance or dodge chance or damage reduction for all allies for the next 2 turns. And I reckon that will make this unit insanely good, because you can have a slot 1 unit, but then you also have that versatility to be in slot 3 and a damage dealer, depending on how you want to have your setup, depending on what units you have to run. And also, they are a great linking partner with Hit. They share 6 links with the Tech EZA, 5 links with some other Hit units, and at least that way, with Hit being a stacker and a dodge or die unit, you can have Hit comfortably in slot 2 doing that and stacking, and then these guys in slot 1 being a slot 1 unit and a good slot 1 unit at that, while providing good links to the new Hit and a little bit of extra support for them as well. And then if you want to give them the SA effect support, also to follow in rotation, but then also good versatility outside of being a slot 1 unit if you want to run them on some other categories that isn't with Hit in slot 3, where they can do some damage and they become a dodge or die unit, and really emphasize them giving support. And in my opinion, I think that's a sick way to make LR Hitku. I think that will make them so good and gives them great team coverage no matter what slot you run them in. So that is my 3 choices for the potential EZAs to come during Golden Week. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments of what you would give these units and what you think of my ideas and who you want to see EZA'd most. I know a lot of you will probably say Hitku. Me too. But we'll see what Dokkan comes up with. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, have a great day, and peace.